Hi, Mr. Jardine.
Hello,
How are you? Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you too. Welcome to Antigua and welcome to the Antigua Barbuda Youth Enlightenment Academy. Also software development, video studio, audio studio.
Nice. Welcome back to Repat Stories, where we travel the world through the stories of others. My name is Adrienne, your host and interviewer, and today we're in Antigua, and we're talking to Mr. Lawrence Jardine, who is well respected in the community and doing a lot for youth development. So I'm really happy to talk to you, Mr. Jardine. Thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Right.
Thank you too.
Yes. All right. So, as a reminder, our show kind of takes three main sections. We do home, and then away, and then home again. And so, can you tell us about what it was like for you growing up in the island of Antigua?
Growing up for me in Antigua was exciting to some extent. I grew up without a father. Three women raised me, my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt. And that was exciting. They instilled in me discipline, and I had a younger brother, and they sent us to the Antigua Grammar School. So they gave us a good start. They made that sacrifice. Additionally, you could say I was a city boy. I was in Ovals, what's in the heart of St. John's, very close to the Market Street. So to some extent, I was privy to, the current things that were happening. And also St. John's was where, we saw the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister at the time, And also in that period growing up, I grew up with two persons who were very influential on us, and that was Sir Vivian Richards and his brother Mervyn Richards. We actually went to the grammar school together, etc. And they were stars in the community. They made us proud. And I recall after the football games or the cricket games, Vivi was leading and we were walking at the back with him, etc. I've said that to say that we had mentors as elders, but also we had mentors and role models of people, young persons who were around us were exceptional. And subsequently, as you know, Viv Richards went on to be arguably the best batsman in the world and the best captain at one point in time. So that is basically the major influence. There are other things in between, but those are the major influences coming out of an area where there's so much activity, a lot of playing in the parks, I said, and then going to the grammar school, which was not just for academics, but you were supposed to be manly at the Antigua Grammar School. So it was that sort of toughness as well, I would share with you that some of the things that we call bullying today, we call it grinding back then.
Oh my gosh.
And, that made us tough. But we were very friendly and so forth, and very creative. One of the things I can share with you is that we grew up with a particular type of poverty that to some extent made us creative because we made our own toys.
Yeah.
A lot of toys. We made a lot of toys for ourselves. So that was basically the foundation on which I started.
In Jamaica, they have a thing where they make trucks from juice boxes and the bottle covers. Do they do that kind of thing here?
Yes.
Kites, things like that.
We made kites. We made tops. The same, the cars, we made them from the corned beef tins and so forth. We made the wheels. In fact, we made our cricket balls from the tubing, for the bicycle tubing.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, we cut them down in slices of maybe around half an inch, maybe quarter of an inch, somewhere between there. And we would put paper or cloth in the center and just put these bands around until we had a ball.
And that's how you get the bones.
And
Amazing.
we had a ball.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that's how Vivi started too.
Yeah. That's incredible. And so what was, just for context, I'm not from here, the grammar school, it's an all-boys school, it's a primary level school, does it go all the way to high school?
All boys. Well, it's basically a secondary school, so it's a high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you leave primary school at 10, 11, 12, depends, right? You go to the grammar school.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I like the statistic you told me earlier about what it costs for a pound of fish at that time and what it costs to send you to school at that time. Can you repeat those and give us some more context for what things cost at that time?
Well, after I became an adult, have children, and you do some reflection, and you say, why would three women decide to take all the money that they have and send 2 boys to the grammar school, you know. And then I start reading about, you know, the late father of the nation, V.C. Bird, and I recognize how influential he was on the family. And my grandmother told me also that he, V.C. Bird, and my grandfather were great friends, that they actually shared a room together, right? And so reading Dr. Paget's Henry, V.C. The Shouldering of Antigua and Barbuda, V.C. Bird, I put these things together and recognize why is it poor persons at that time, at least it influenced V.C. Bird's position, influenced my grandmother and parents, right, so to speak. And so they sent us to the grammar school, and then I started doing some calculations. I remember back then a tin of sardine was 19 cents, a pound of fish was 20 cents. And then when I do the calculation, it cost about 175 pounds of fish to send us to grammar school for a term.
A term.
Yeah.
Just one term.
Just one term. And I said, wow, that was a sacrifice,
Yeah.
right? And that influenced me, that I could share with you. I decided that my children, I have 4 children, they never had to pay any tuition. I paid all of it. So that was, what you say, passed forward. What I learned from my grandmother, my aunt, and my mom, I said pass it forward to make that sacrifice to avoid, you know, your offspring having student loans. Of course, they didn't have the capacity to send me to tertiary, right? But they went as far as secondary.
Yeah, which at that time was still a substantial leg up.
Of course, it was.
Right,
Yeah.
we know. And so at
You're talking the late 60s.
yeah, absolutely. And so at that point, you come out of grammar school, and what is happening? What do you decide is next? What are your options?
Well, strangely, a colleague of mine, he went to another school. He saw me one evening and he said, Lawrence, there's an exam at a particular place tomorrow for a scholarship to go to Germany. Just like that, casually so. I can remember it was on High Street, close to the courthouse one evening. And I went, I took the exam, I passed the exam, I was called and told that I got this scholarship to Germany, right? And I will be studying electronics. I think at the time it was the PLM government. This would have been around 1972, 73, and part of that agreement with the investors, the developers, is that they would educate Antiguans to create, you know, the technicians and so that's required. It was supposed to be a hotel resort, I think. Right? Okay. And so I went on that scholarship, right? I stayed in Germany for about 13 months, you know. I did not get an opportunity to get the tertiary part of it, but luckily I worked, I think, for over 6 months, maybe 9 months, on an industrial site. I think the name of it was Zentro Electric. And there they manufactured power supplies and things like that, AC, DC power supplies and switchboards, etc. And so I developed the confidence because, as I said, growing up in an area where we're always making our own toys. Right. And here I went now, I was doing the practical side because that scholarship would have been that I go to school in the mornings and then go to the factory in the afternoon. That is that scholarship. And I think, I recall, when you travel at 18, you're black. You travel at 18, you go to Germany. You walk into a factory where you see tools that you've never seen before. All the tools are chromed, you know. Yeah, it looks as if it's a surgical department in the hospital. You know, I'm accustomed to seeing old rusty-looking pliers, etc. And I went there. So you go as a black person, maybe 18, with all the inferiority complexes that you develop, right? And then while I was there doing some work, I remember one moment, there's one time when I think it was a Yugoslavian woman who was working there. She called me aside and she showed me something that I made. And then she showed me something that somebody else made. And she asked me, who made this? I told her, I don't know. She said, that's the manager of the company make this. This is what you make. And if he sees what you make, he'll be insulted because yours is better. So that was, it might appear simple, but to 18-year-old, right, it was a confidence builder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It was a confidence builder for me.
Yes.
Right. And then that boosts my confidence. I recognize, okay, we have comparable skills.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And so that didn't work out. I think after around 12 months or so, I got a letter saying that the university was full.
So may I pause here and interrupt and just ask what was this? So the scholarship, most scholarships are sent into school to learn. So the scholarship actually intended for you to be working in a factory. Was that for training purposes or?
I don't want to call the word in German, but you can edit it. I think it's called Berufsschule.
Okay.
It's a kind of industrial type relationship, school settings,
Okay.
right? Where you go to school in the morning and you get the practical in the
Okay.
afternoon. So it's
Understood.
tied, it's
Yeah.
very hands-on.
So it's very much a vocational
Yeah,
training.
vocational,
Hands-on. Understood.
Because subsequently when I went to Canada, I went to an applied college. So it's a lot, it's right. So I learned a lot there.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of times, even today, your medical doctors, there is some amount of book learning before you actually ever get to do some practical or practical in the clinic. But having you leave from school, you start today and go to school in the afternoon, I imagine you leaps and bounds of learning, I imagine at the time. So you say you are there and you expect that you're learning German in the beginning and you expect that you're going to enroll in a university program, but then they say it's full. Did you know that was a chance that might happen?
No, I had no idea. I have no idea of that. I just took it as it is and came back.
So, but did you at that time as a young teenage male take it that coolly? You uprooted?
Well, you ask yourself questions.
Yeah.
You're black, and you ask yourself questions,
Yeah.
if it has anything to do with racism. But I never made a judgment either way because
Right.
I really do not know.
Right.
But I find it odd that all of a sudden something that was planned for a long while, and then you left Antigua, and then after about 12 months or so, you got this letter saying that, the school is full. So you've seen those things. I mean, I've seen certain things, but I never really come to a conclusion. You're suspicious, but you don't come to a conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what do you remember most about your time in Germany, good or bad? Like how it felt to be cold in winter, or there was a particular smell or something about your time there that has stayed with you?
Well, what Germany did for me is that at that age, I vowed that I will not live in a cold country. I'm coming back to Antigua. So I made that decision. Even when subsequently I had opportunities to extend my education in Canada, I said, look, I don't want to be overqualified because I want to live in Antigua. So I made that decision. I just don't like the cold. However, as I said, in Germany, I saw professionalism that I have not seen before. Right? The owner of the building landed his helicopter on the roof. The owner of the business, for example. Right? And I remember shaking his hand. It's the hardest handshake I've ever had. Right? So I learned how that culture functioned. Right? As I said, quite professional. I also learned something that was quite profound. There were no cleaners. There were no cleaners. At every Friday, you put down tools Friday afternoon, and all the workers had to clean. There are no cleaners, right? So those are a couple of the things I learned. I experienced minus 24 degrees Celsius.
Celsius?
Yes, that was terrible.
Wow.
And I remember coming off the bus, and I had to walk a long distance to the factory across the park. And when I reached, I was very poor when it comes to wearing gloves and things like that. I just didn't like winter clothes, right? So when I reached at work at the factory, I was about to do that, and the guys shout out, Lawrence, do not touch your ears, you'll break them. Right? And that was, I have some experience, right? Yeah, so the cold, I never liked the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of, I think I start forming that is a difference between learning in an industrialized country. For example, I think you're sharing that experience, like you go to an industrialized country, and I had this experience in Canada that I could talk about, where the people who are teaching you are very close to industries, right? They are just teachers without, that practical experience. So that was significant for me. Also, I did something when I was in Germany. Also, I went to Stuttgart. That's in the east, northeast, I think. I went there to watch a football match in 1974, Germany playing against Spain. I decided I have to go. And I went, and I've never seen so many persons. I think there were 64,000 persons in the stadium. When I came outside here, I was this little teenager from Antigua, lost. Didn't know which bus is mine. And all I heard people laughing in the bus saying, look at him there.
Oh.
Right, they waited for me,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so that was experience. So that was what experienced.
And if we compare that to the population of Antigua at the time, it
Yeah.
was definitely more, probably, or about the
Antigua
same.
was just about the same.
Same.
Yeah, but I've never seen, the most I would have seen is Carnival
Yeah.
with perhaps about 5 to 10,000 people at the most on Market Street, right? But you go to a place and you see a stadium with 64,000 persons in the stadium making noise,
Yeah.
horns, whistles. And I had the opportunity to see Franz Beckenbauer and Gert Muller, some of the
Yeah.
greats at the time. Yeah, so that was it. I came back to Antigua, I was bragging a bit about that.
I
saw
bet.
Franz Beckenbauer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And so you don't get an opportunity to extend your education in Germany. You decide, how did you decide on Canada?
So when we came back home,
Okay.
the government made amends, so to
okay.
speak, and organized a
So
scholarship.
it didn't just happen to you?
No, it didn't happen to
Okay.
me. A number of us decided not to stay back and not to go again. Because during that period in Germany, there were some persons who wanted to study farming, but they didn't want to go on the farm. They started just going to university and schools. But that system, which is a practical, you had to go on the farm, right? And it's very, very practical. You know, as I said, I got a lot of operating machineries and things like that, and the safety, etc. Because I remember, for example, in the factory, I was shown a picture of a guy who did not tie his hair. So you learn these things early, and the hair wrapped up in a power drill, plucked it out, yeah. So in other words, you leave Antigua at 18 and you see persons are working without protective gear, etc. And here you recognize that you must have protective gear. You're learning these things, right, in a developed environment, yeah. So those are the things you learn at that point.
Yeah, amazing. And so you make a pit stop in Antigua. What do you do before you go back again to Canada? What do you do?
Well, I just stayed around,
Your grandma and your aunt and your mom?
played pool.
Played pool.
Yeah.
When did pool start? Pool started before you left?
Pool started when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 16. Pool started when I was 15. So during that period of time, I think I might have stayed almost a year before I traveled again. I played pool and dominoes. I subsequently became a national champion in pool and a national champion in dominoes. So
All right, we'll talk
right.
more about that soon.
Yeah. But that's what I did, you know. I did a lot of lime in that time.
Lots of life.
Yeah, it was a short period of time, but
Yeah.
I think by 74, I was just a few months, I was back in Canada.
Okay. And so what part of Canada were you in? And was it a big adjustment for you compared to Germany?
I don't think it was a big adjustment. I said I went to the Humber College of Applied Arts and Technology. I think maybe a few of us, we shared an apartment, right? So I was around colleagues from Antigua.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were there for each other, you know. And so in that sense, it was not a big adjustment. Somehow I felt that Germany was cold, but the wind factor in Canada was just unbearable at times. You know, so I just never liked the cold, right? So after I stayed in Canada for about 2.5 years, I said, look, I had opportunities maybe to stay back and further my studies, but I said, no, I don't like the cold.
Understood.
Yeah.
And so what did you leave Canada with in terms of qualifications?
Well, I graduated there with I graduated with a diploma, right? I studied electronics technology, and I came back to Antigua. I came back to Antigua, and I got a job here.
What is here?
Yeah.
What is here?
This was the Caribbean Relay Company. This was a Caribbean company, and it was owned by the British Broadcasting Corporation and Deutsche Welle, the voice of Germany.
Ooh, cool.
So they constructed this in 1974. Yeah, and I got a job here in November 1977. And I've been here ever since. And after it closed in 2005, 5 of my colleagues who all work, we purchased this. So we actually own this. But so I've been here for 40 odd years.
Wow.
27 years working with the BBC and the Voice of Germany, and now 20 years as the owner.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And so tell me more about when you just came back and you're readjusting back into Antiguan life. You weren't away for that long, but were there noticeable changes between when you left the first time and when you came back?
Well, what I noticed when I came back from Germany was the size of the people.
What does that mean, good or bad?
Yeah, depends on how you look at it.
Oh!
Because, I mean, I have small parents, small body. At that time, we have a 24, 26-inch waist. And I could not get a pant to fit me in Germany.
Oh, okay.
If I got a pant that fit my waist, the legs are out here, right? And if it fits my leg, the waist was out here because we were smaller, right? So, in other words, I was a relatively small teenager, 18. And a German teenager at 18 was massive, in my view, right?
Okay.
So when I came back to Antigua, I saw people looking slim and trim. You know, all the guys had, you know, V shapes, etc. Whereas in Germany, I saw guys 15 drinking beer. You know, you go to the pub, a lot of beers, and
Got you.
you know, so the diet was different. A lot of kartoffel, white potato, and Schweinfleisch, pork. Those are, you know, major diet. Yeah. So, it was bigger people, right? So when I came back to Antigua, I said, wow, everybody here looked tall and slim. So that was the first shocker when I came back, right? So somehow I recognized it, I say, when I purchased clothes, but you see the physical contrast once I came back.
Yeah.
You know, that was difference, yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything else that was noticeable or memorably different?
Well, you look at the availability of things. For example, what you could find in the supermarket. I've never seen so much vegetables in my life. The cutlery, oh boy, the plates, the knife and fork. All these things are so beautiful.
Yes.
You know, everything is just top of the line.
Yes.
You drive on a highway in Germany where you cannot see the end of the road. You drive for hours. I remember we drove from Luxembourg to Germany when we landed, and that was an 11-hour trip.
Wow.
You know, you just saw, it was just different. You know, it is just different, you know, what you saw. You saw the parks, the streets so clean. I used to say to myself, you could eat from the streets. You know, it's just as different, right? In terms of organization. Even subsequently, when I went back to Germany, I went to see a friend there. I took me to a bar. The glasses were graduated, so if you wanted 4 ounces of wine, you had to get it.
Measurements.
Yeah, in Antigua, I'm accustomed that the proprietor would fill it with ice first.
Yeah, and then pour the drink.
Yeah. And so those were, you know, the different things. That there was like a sense of justice there, you know, where, you know.
Like you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. Also, I think one of the things I noticed in Germany is that, and this was, as I say, 73, 74, they're using the metric system. So I came from Antigua using pounds, inches, and foot, and etc. And when I went there, right, everything was metric. So those are some of the things you know, you acquire there. And then subsequently, you drive on the Autobahn, no speed limit, and you're driving and you're looking over and you see somebody clocking 100 and something miles an hour, and you see a guy maybe on a motorbike with his girlfriend holding on his back, and he passes a car that's traveling at 100 miles an hour. So you saw these things that just different, you know. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
And so now you're back. You said, okay, the cold is one thing you couldn't do, and you choose to come back, right? What is your thinking when you get back? Like, you're still young. At what point did Mrs. Jardine come into play? Like, are you're intentionally a nation builder, or are you just trying to do work and take care of your family? Like, what are you doing when you're coming back now from 2 opportunities in developed countries?
Okay, I say after I came back from Canada, um, I wrote an application here, and I think in parallel with that, I heard about space research. I don't know if you know about the infamous space research with Gerald Bold, right? Who was accused and subsequently he was assassinated for sending weapons to South Africa, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a scandal that exposed here. And when this company answered me, I was walking on Market Street, or so Main Street, and somebody said to me, Jardine, how come we didn't see you yesterday? Because your name called for a job at Space Research, which would have subsequently been with the, right? And I did an exam for Space Research, and I know I aced it because it was fresh, it had electronics, and it was really good. But I got this job, and I took this one, right?
So did it really feel like a narrow miss, or?
Yeah, it was a narrow miss. To me, it was a narrow miss, I think, because I could imagine I might have had been elevated in a job like that because of my electronics training, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, and there's some sad side to this story. The guy who recommended me to get this job, he was killed in the States as well, John Ash. Yeah, he got caught up in something, right? So there's sad moments in this, right? But I came here, and I've been always tempted to, further my education, Subsequently, a couple of years ago, I went back and got a degree in business management, but...
Where was that from?
University of Edinburgh, yeah. But I think
Wait, you actually went there?
No.
Oh, online?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I've decided at that point, because you asked me, I met my wife when I was about, 26, right? And she was 3 years younger, 23. And the moment I met her, I said, oh boy, this is it. Right? It was those,
I love that.
Yeah,
it
was right. In fact, I can share this with you, but you can edit it. When I first met her, I just did not take her seriously because I recognized I'm not going to fool around with this woman. This is wife material.
Got you.
So I made up my mind, and I know once I went there, I was not
Gotcha.
going to make a fool of her because she's a fantastic woman. And you saw the poem that I wrote for her when she was 6 years old, right? And so being married at 28, you make a decision. I made a decision to say that. Yes, I had ambitions, and at one point I was getting a scholarship to go overseas. I said, look, I have a fairly good job. Yes, getting a degree would be prestigious because all I had was a diploma coming out of, But I passed that well. I was a student in computer programming and things like that. So I decided to just give the kids the money, right? So sent off all the kids to university. And as I said, Akila, she graduated 26 with a PhD in law. And so that was it. And also the philosophy was that I make sure all of them could learn to type. So she was typing 100 words per minute, right? And things like that. So I set the children up well. And then after everything was over, I said, okay, let me go and get a degree now, right? Basically. So that was it. But while I was here working for this company, an engineer took me to the manager and said, we have a computer programmer on site. And the company was waiting for payroll software for over 5 years. And so the manager here gave me the job to develop the payroll software. And since then, that's the leading payroll software in Antigua up to this day. That started somewhere in the early 90s. And the first check I got for that payroll, which was 50%, was a 50% deposit, was $6,000. And the check was written on my first daughter's birthday. So I framed that and put it on the wall, right? So while I was here, and they were using the program, I was advised by a person, so, why you don't go commercial, why you don't go commercial? So I developed the application and I went commercial. And, so that's how that started, right? So I'm working, I have a good family, I have a good wife, I have a good job, and I have a business.
Yes.
So I decided to stay put.
Yes.
So I stayed put, and I say after everything was okay, I say, all right, let me get a degree now.
Yes, yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm curious, how much do you think of your life and your decisions are like rolling with what comes, and how much do you think is intentional? Because you've done all the things that people, men, hope to do in their life for themselves and their families. How much of that you think is taking intentional steps versus what's given to you?
I think it's a combination of both. As I said, it started with my parents who could have gone the other way. And then there was like self-discovery, things I didn't know about myself. Like I told you of that experience that I had in Germany with a woman telling me, look, yeah. And then I had a similar experience in Canada. After a particular course, I was walking down the hall and I heard an instructor calling me, Lawrence, Lawrence, Lawrence. And the instructor said to me, I mean, I think I was just about 20. And the instructor said to me, Lawrence, I cannot solve problems like you. That's a white man telling me that at 20 and after, right? So my confidence was growing, right? One may not understand it, what it was, maybe to be black in an environment, you know, in a classroom, and almost everybody's white.
Yes.
You understand? Yeah.
Yes.
And so when the instructor called me and he said that I cannot solve problems like you, and I'd recommend that you go and buy this game by the name of Mastermind, which was a game developed by a Jewish mathematician. And then I mastered that game. It was about logical reason, right? And then I remember doing my computer course, and the teacher walked into me first. He says, I don't know how you do it. This is definitely an A, right? So those little moments gave me the confidence, right, that I perhaps did not have from my environment. Yeah, and right, so I knew I had the intellectual capacity to do certain things. You know, and that's not being immodest. You know, however, I just did not want to stay in those places to further my education.